When I first bought the little cabin in the woods, it wasn't much, just a creaky roof, a porch with peeling paint, and a yard overtaken by weeds. But to me, it was paradise. I wanted peace away from the city, and most of all, I wanted to grow my own food. So, I tilled the soil, planted vegetables, and built a rustic wooden fence. Within months, my cabin garden looked alive. Tomatoes climbing the stakes, cucumbers spreading wide, and herbs filling the air with fragrance. But peace doesn't last long when Karen lives nearby. She was the type who had a complaint ready before sunrise. If a bird sang too loud, she'd claim it was disturbing the neighborhood. If the wind carried the smell of barbecue, she'd say it was environmental pollution. So when she spotted my garden, she stormed over with her usual dramatic flair. "Excuse me, this isn't a farm. It's a residential area. You can't just grow crops like this. It's against the rules." I calmly replied, "Karen, this is my private property. I've checked the local regulations. Gardens are completely allowed." Her face turned red. "Not if I report it." "Just wait. I'll have the mayor himself come down here if I have to." I brushed it off, thinking it was just another empty threat. But 2 days later, I heard the sound of car doors slamming outside. When I looked out, I saw Karen standing proudly with a clipboard in her hand, pointing toward my garden as if she'd uncovered a criminal operation. And right behind her was the mayor's official car. The mayor, a serious man in a suit, stepped out and looked around. "What's this about?" he asked. Karen crossed her arms. "Mayor, this person is running an unsanctioned farm in a residential cabin. It's unsightly, and I'm sure it lowers property values. You need to make him shut it down immediately." The mayor studied me for a moment, then walked closer. He glanced at the rows of vegetables, the flowers I'd planted to attract bees, and the little stone path I'd built with my own hands. To my surprise, he smiled. "This doesn't look like a problem to me," he said. "In fact, it looks like someone is putting effort into making the land beautiful." Karen's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious. You're supposed to uphold the law." Just then, another car pulled up, a black SUV with tinted windows. The door opened, and out stepped a man in a crisp suit. The mayor's eyes widened, and with a tone of respect, he announced loudly, "Everyone, stand aside. The senator is here." The moment the mayor announced, "The senator is here," Karen froze. Her smug grin vanished, and for the first time she looked nervous. The senator stepped out of the SUV with an air of quiet authority. He wasn't the type to waste time. His presence carried weight. Dressed in a navy suit, polished shoes, and carrying a leather briefcase, he looked around with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Karen immediately sprang back into action, though now her voice trembled slightly. "Senator, thank goodness you're here. This man, this gardener, is destroying the character of our community. Imagine vegetables growing like it's some back alley market. You must shut this down before it ruins everything." The senator ignored her completely. He walked straight toward me, extended his hand, and said, "Good to see you again." Karen's face twisted in confusion. "Wait, you two, you know each other?" I shook his hand firmly. "Yes, Senator." "Thank you for coming." The mayor looked even more stunned than Karen. "Senator, you're acquainted with him?" The senator gave a small laugh. "More than acquainted. He's the reason I ever considered public service seriously. Years ago, when I was still a student, he spoke at a civic forum about community, self-sufficiency, and respect for the land. That speech inspired me, and now here he is, practicing what he preached, with a garden that feeds not only himself, but benefits the environment." Karen staggered back as if struck. "What? This can't be true." "He's just some guy living in a cabin." The senator's voice grew firm. "Karen, do you know what destroys communities? Not gardens, not people growing food. It's intolerance, entitlement, and hostility toward neighbors who do no harm. That's what breaks neighborhoods apart." The mayor nodded silently, clearly agreeing but too cautious to speak before the senator. I looked at Karen calmly. "I told you before, Karen, my garden isn't breaking any laws. It's part of who I am, and apparently it aligns with the values our leaders respect." The senator took a step closer to Karen. lowering his voice but making sure everyone heard. Instead of trying to shut down what you don't like, maybe you should learn something from it. Imagine if more households planted gardens, less reliance on stores, healthier food, stronger communities. Karen's hands clenched around her clipboard. She was shaking, but her pride wouldn't let her back down fully. This is favoritism. Just because you know him doesn't mean the rules don't apply. The mayor finally spoke, his voice calm but resolute. Karen, there are no rules against what he's doing. You wasted everyone's time, and now you've embarrassed yourself in front of the senator. The senator smiled at me again. How about we take a walk through your garden? I'd love to see what you've been growing. Karen's jaw dropped once more as I led the senator past the fence, leaving her fuming in silence. The senator followed me into the garden, his polished shoes crunching lightly over the gravel path I had laid by hand. The air smelled of basil and fresh soil. Bees buzzed lazily among the lavender bushes, and the sunlight bounced off the green leaves of ripening tomatoes. Beautiful, the senator said quietly, almost to himself. This is what people need to see. Proof that small efforts can create something nourishing. Karen, of course, couldn't stay away. She leaned over the fence, her face red with frustration. Don't let him fool you. Those tomatoes attract pests. Those herbs smell awful, and that fence looks cheap. Senator, you're being manipulated. The senator turned slowly toward her. His expression was calm, but his tone carried sharp authority. Karen, do you honestly believe fresh food and clean air are harmful? Do you realize how absurd you sound right now? Karen stammered. It's not about food. It's about rules. If he can plant a garden, what's next? Chickens? Goats? A barnyard in the middle of our neighborhood? The mayor, who had quietly followed us in, sighed. Karen, stop exaggerating. This is a private cabin with plenty of land. His garden is not only legal but beneficial. I knelt near a row of cucumbers, plucked one from the vine and offered it to the senator. He smiled, wiped it clean against his handkerchief, and took a bite. Crisp, fresh, reminds me of my childhood summers. He turned to the mayor. This man is doing what many citizens should do, reconnecting with the earth. If anything, we should highlight his garden as a community example. Karen gasped. Highlight it? You mean reward him? The senator nodded. Yes, in fact, I'll have my office publish a story about this garden. People need to see how small acts of sustainability make a difference. Karen nearly dropped her clipboard. This is ridiculous. I reported him for violating standards. And now you're going to make him a hero? I couldn't help but smile. Karen, sometimes when you try to bury someone, you end up planting a seed instead. The mayor chuckled at my words, but Karen's anger boiled over. She pushed the fence gate open and marched inside. This is my neighborhood, and I won't let some outsider turn it into a... Before she could finish, she stepped right into a patch of fresh soil I had watered that morning. Her heel sank deep, and as she struggled to pull it free, she lost balance and tumbled backward, straight into a pile of compost. The senator raised an eyebrow, struggling to hide his amusement. Well, that's one way to connect with nature. Karen shrieked, covered in leaves and soil, while the mayor shook his head in disbelief. And I knew at that moment, her war against my garden had only just begun. Karen stormed home after her compost accident, but everyone in the neighborhood had seen her tantrum. By evening, whispers spread faster than wildfire. Some laughed about how she joined the compost pile, while others rolled their eyes at her obsession with rules that didn't exist. But Karen wasn't the type to retreat quietly. The very next morning, she rallied a small group of neighbors outside my cabin. They held makeshift signs, "No farm here," and "Stop the garden." She stood at the front, yelling into a cheap megaphone. "This so-called garden is a blight on our community. He's turning our peaceful neighborhood into farmland. We demand action!" From my porch, I calmly sipped my coffee. The senator had promised to return, and I had a feeling Karen's protest was about to backfire. Sure enough, within an hour, cars pulled up, local reporters, the mayor, and the senator himself. Cameras began flashing as soon as the officials arrived. Karen shoved her way toward them, speaking dramatically into the microphones. See, the community is outraged. We won't tolerate this kind of... The senator raised his hand, cutting her off. Outraged? I see only a handful of people you dragged out here, and I've spoken to most of the residents. They actually admire this garden. The mayor stepped forward, nodding. We did a quick survey yesterday. Over 80% of neighbors said they enjoy the greenery, the fresh produce giveaways, and the fact that it makes the area look alive. Karen, the only person with a problem here is you. Karen's face turned pale as the camera zoomed in. This is biased. He's your friend. You're protecting him. The senator's expression hardened. This isn't about friendship. This is about values. You reported him, tried to shame him, and disrupted the community, all while he broke no laws. If anything, you've proven yourself to be the actual disturbance. Reporters scribbled furiously. One asked, Senator, what message do you want to give citizens watching this? The senator smiled and gestured toward my garden. That community thrives when neighbors support each other. Not tear each other down. Plant a garden, share your harvest, respect your fellow citizens. That's how neighborhoods grow stronger. The crowd clapped, and some even cheered. Karen, red-faced and trembling, tried to shout over them, but her voice was drowned out by applause. The mayor leaned toward her with a quiet but firm tone. Karen, enough. You've embarrassed yourself in front of the entire town and the press. If you truly care about this community, it's time you stop harassing your neighbors. I looked out at the crowd, smiling humbly, and said, Anyone who wants cucumbers, tomatoes, or herbs, come by any time. My garden has plenty to share. The cameras caught the moment. Karen fuming in silence while the senator and mayor shook my hand. And just like that, my little cabin garden had gone from a neighborhood complaint to a symbol of pride for the entire town. Enjoying this wild Karen drama from the cabin garden? Hit that subscribe button for more unbelievable neighbor showdowns. Also, give this a like if you had a laugh, and drop a comment below. What would you do if your garden got reported?